What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we are doing a regionals question and answer video with Alex Hill. And so I know this is our first regionals question and answer video, so I'll explain it just a little bit, just in case you're new to the whole Pokemon scene and for regionals. Now, day one in US and Canada, you actually play the standard list, and then at day two, you actually switch to a expanded list, which is black and white own. So this is his day one list that he used to get top 8, and as he used another eggs deck. And of course, Executor, I never know how to say this Pokemon name. Blockade 10, we've seen it before many times. I've had many videos with him. But most of the time when you see this deck, you see Empoleon. He doesn't play that, and I asked about that, of course. And you see he plays not one, not two, but 3 Jirachi in his list. And we talk about that some. We talk about the 3 eggs some too. Another cool thing, he plays the 1 Herbal Energy, and of course I ask about that. But hopefully you enjoy his day 1 deck, and just in about a second you'll see his day 2 list. Alrighty, so for day 2, Alex actually switched his whole deck up. Instead, he decided to play a Mega Gardevoir deck, which has the attack Billionaire. This attack does 30 damage times the amount of Fairy Energy attached to all your Pokemon. And this is like the cool thing about Expanded, is you can switch your whole deck up if you want to. If you're like, I'm tired of playing my deck, let's play a whole new different deck. So that's what Alex did here. And I actually asked why he switched decks. Now, the cool thing about this deck is he plays Wonder Energy, which prevents all effects of your opponent's attack except damage done to this fairy Pokemon. And of course I ask why he's played that. This is probably the biggest reason why he switched decks, because of Wonder Energy. And a neat thing about his deck is he played 2 EXP share, which is if your active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, you move a basic energy card that was attached to that Pokemon to a new Pokemon, or the card that is to the energy that this Pokemon was attached to. I probably said that really confusingly. But let's say a Mega Gardevoir gets knocked out, and you have an EXP share on a Aromatisse. That Fairy Energy gets transferred from the Mega Gardevoir to the Aromatisse, or 1 Energy, which one. I think is it basic only? Yeah, basic. So yeah, never mind, not Fairy, just regular. Yeah, as soon as I said that, I was like, man, that's Fairy. But this is a whole different deck. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview, and thanks for watching. Have a great day. Like I said, if you like it, leave a thumbs up, you know? And if you have any suggestions down below, leave those. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Alrighty, bye. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we're doing a regionals question and answer video. And what's your name?
Alex Hill.
And what regionals are we talking about?
It's gonna be Ontario regionals this past weekend.
Okay. So we know you played eggs in day 1, and what were the decks that you played against, and how did you end up doing against them?
Yeah, so the first round I played against Seismitoad Slurpuff. It was pretty easy. He only played I guess he played some waters and DCs. But I went first, and I got a quick head ringer on his Toad the first turn. And so the first game was super easy from there. I was able to take out that Toad, and once he got another one, I had already had trainers for so long that I just had the Flare Grunt waiting. I think I might have even zero-sicked off a DC from his bench Toad at one point. The second game was not as easy. He hit some Crushing Hammers. I think I missed the turn 2 blockade. But I mean, it's just like a war of attrition against Seismitoad. You eventually get the Virizion in play. You shut off their grass or you shut off their poison because you have the grass at some point. You draw into the Flare Grunts and 0-6 eventually. Got all those Jirachi so I can get rid of their DCs. And so I won that. The second game I actually played against kind of a speed Yveltal, which was scary. Yeah, it was pretty scary because he had like acro bikes and regular bikes too, so he was able to draw under the supporter lock. The first game I actually made like a really egregious misplay. I had a Battle Compressor, an Ultra Ball, and a Battle Compressor, a VS Seeker, and some Ultra Balls in my hand. And so I Battle Compressor, and I'm like, alright, game plan, get 2 eggs and a Juniper. And then I'm a VS Seeker for the Juniper, whatever. We can use the Ultra Balls, get rid of the eggs, get out the Genesect, the Virizion, all's good. Well, so I Battle Compressor for 3 eggs instead, not thinking, whatever, didn't get sleep or something. And then I Ultra Ball, and it's like, oh, I got 2 chances to Ultra Ball and still grab the Jirachi to get the supporter. It's not as good, but it's still something. Instead, I just grabbed the Virizion and the Genesect. I throw them on my bench, and then I just look down at my field, and I just face palm. And so I throw 2 eggs on the bench, and I think I might have attached to the active. I don't even know what was active. And then I just passed, and I'm like, well, just threw away that game. Probably going to scoop in 2 turns, move on, whatever. Top deck Jirachi, and we're just like, yes! We're living. And so I was able to, this was even more of a war, like, I don't want to use the same thing, but it's more just like I had to keep his energy off the board, and then he'd get 1 energy onto a baby Veltal, and then he'd get another one onto the bench. So then I'd Flare Grunt and like hit a Crushing Hammer and get rid of both of them, and then he'd hit like a Bike and get another Dark or something. Eventually I pulled through on that one. The second game, he was able to get a quick Seismitoad going, and I actually got an Executor with a Muscle Band, but I was still not doing enough damage. He had the Muscle Band on his Toad, and I eventually I got a Juniper and I hit a Flare Grunt, and so I Flare Grunted off of his DC, and he had the other one. I had another one in hand, and so I lost that one pretty quickly. I didn't have any more supporters. The third game was pretty similar to the first game, where I was definitely winning, and at one point I kind of saw it in his face, and it kind of clicked, where he was just like, "Yeah, I can't win this game." I don't know. I don't want to call him out, but he played a little bit slower and was like spending more time deciding between his acrobike targets. Yeah. And eventually time got called, and I had it was my turn, and so I Quaking Punch. No, I didn't Quaking Punch. He
blockaded.
I blockaded, and I hit him with the laser. And so if he goes into his turn, if he top decks a Dark, then I need to have the red signal and the laser next turn to win. Because he's got the Dark on the bench, he can retreat out, and it's just going to be a tie. But if he doesn't draw it, just kind of sighs, and I win that game. The third game was against Don Fan, which is, I think, one of the deck's best matchups. It was really bad. Like, we didn't really understand it for when we were testing. But then once you kind of get the red signal Flare Gun play, then it becomes so much better. You kind of just got to go with the coin flips. Like, sometimes you just got a red signal and laser, hope they stay asleep, and then you get an easy knockout there. But I don't know. I had good starts in both of these games. She was actually playing Wobbuffet and Aegislash-EX. The Wobbuffet was a pain. She started with it one of the games, and so I luckily started with a supporter, but I couldn't Battle Compressor to give my eggs. I couldn't use my Jirachis or anything for a while, so I had to kind of wait it out, put it to sleep, lasered it, and eventually got rid of it. And then the Aegislash was annoying sometimes because it's only got 2 basic energy in the deck. But with the laser, I kept it asleep for a while. I think I even Zerosic off the Float Stone to put on a Headringer once, so she couldn't retreat it a bunch. Because otherwise, you can just put up the Aegislash. All I can do to it is poison it, and then she can just keep hitting me with a spinning turn.
Yeah.
And then she gets the Robo substitutes every so often too. So, but anyway, so I won that series. The next round I played against a Yveltal Garbodor, and it was pretty standard. The first game I won, just hammered off all his energy. He scooped pretty quickly. Game 2, I got my setup going. It was a little bit slower this game, and he actually got down the Garbodor, so I couldn't get the eggs back, and it was a huge pain. The only way, and I had actually prized one of my 3 executes this game.
Okay.
So I only had 2 in the deck, so I'd have 1 on the board, and then the only way I could get the one that got knocked out, I'd have to trump card and then Ultra Ball. And he turned off the Virizion, of course, turned off the Genesect, and I'm just like, all right, my only shot of this game, I got a Zerosic away, the Float Stone on the Garbodor, and probably got a red signal it up, hit it for poisons, hope it stays asleep, kill it somehow, I don't know. And then my Zerosic was prized, so I scooped that game too. And Game 3 was just kind of the game that you hope you always hit as the egg player. You just hit everything, and they don't even get any case. The 5th round I played against Andrew Estrada, playing Yveltal Garbodor, actually the same list as the player that I played the previous round.
Okay.
Game 1 was it was just pretty typical. He had energies. He was using Baby Yveltal to charge up some attackers. Actually, incredibly against some of the all the Yveltal players. Like you want them a lot for Toad because then they just can't Quaking Punch, especially not on their first turn. Um, but if you get on the Yveltal, then they're forced to a Dark and a DCE to Evil Ball. And then they can't Y-Cycle them, like if they poison or if they have a muscle. Obviously, can't have a muscle game if they have Headringer. But like they might want to Y-Cycle them sometimes. Like if they poison you, then they can keep energies not on the active. But you kind of restrict them from doing that. So if you can get a knockout on Yveltal, you just get rid of all their energies. And that was really clutch in that first game. The second game, I didn't start Lone Egg. I started Double Egg, and he goes first, Laser Verbank, and maybe he attached an energy, but that was all he did in his turn. So he takes a put up the other egg. I do some stuff with the other egg on the bench. He draws he had an energy on his active baby Yveltal at this point, and he knocks out my egg, and he draws his prize, and then I get the blockade going from there. At some point, he accidentally revealed part of his so he fucked out his dead draws, and so he can get something going the turn before I blockade. And so it just really rough for him. But then I kind of this was again one of the perfect games. He had maybe 2 energies on the board by the time that I blockaded.
All right.
And then I had extra energy on the baby Yveltal, but he didn't even get another Dark to start accelerating that one from the discard. So that was a pretty quick series.
Okay.
I think what's up?
All right, you gotta redo that one part. It was really, oh man, if only I could see you what just happened. For some reason, my internet cut out and then it cut back, but instead of skipping, it played your voice really fast and high pitched, like it was a recording. I thought you could hear me laughing. Oh my god, it was so funny.
But I thought you were just laughing at what I was saying.
No. I was laughing because you sounded like a chipmunk for a second. Of how fast it was going, trying to catch up. Okay, alright. I don't know if you want to redo the Andrew part or not. I heard you talk about, the 2 eggs to that. One got knocked out.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll start with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so the second game against Andrew, I didn't start Lone Egg, I started with 2 executes, and he just Laser Verbank knocks the first one out on his first turn, takes a prize, but that was really all he did. So I do my stuff, get another egg on the bench, play a supporter, maybe put a Brazian in play an energy on the benched egg. And then he goes and gets an energy, uses his active baby Yveltal, knocks out my execute. And he dropped the prize or something, or accidentally tilted it, and so I saw it, and he took a Sycamore off the prizes. Well, in the next turn, I get a blockade going, and so the turn after he draws the supporter to actually get him out of his drought, and he had nothing in hand as the one at blockade, and so it was just really ugly for him. He barely got any energy into play the whole game, and I took this one pretty quickly. He actually scooped because it was pointless to play. And so then I was 5-0, and I was able to ID the last 2 rounds. One of which was against my good friend. We were both 5-0, the only 2 5-0s, and we had kind of looked at the pairings and said, well, if Kevin Baxter wins his pair down, then we'll both have players to ID with in the next round. And so we just decided to ID. It would be good for both of us. Even if we lost the next round, we'd probably still make it in. Well, Kevin lost his pair down. So it was me and my friend Sean who had ID'd, and we have a 50-50 shot at playing against Jason Klozinski, the other 5-0-1, or getting paired down to a match we'll probably have to play because... So we had 128 players at this regional, which means top 32 got points, but there were only 7 rounds, and that was the highest number of masters you can get with and still have 7 rounds. And so multiple players were going to bubble even at 5-1-1. And so we go into the next round, and Sean actually gets paired against Jason, and I get paired against Chris Veneer. Chris Veneer ends up also playing Executor, and he just walks up to me, he's like, you want an ID? And I'm like, yes, gladly. easy, and I didn't know he's playing Executor, and we kind of talked for a bit, and he's like, "Oh, you're playing Executor?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to play that mirror," and I was like, "Oh God, me neither." He's not playing against and Jason almost didn't want to ID with him, and we're just like, "Jason, there's no point to not ID. Like you make it in the cut, and that's it. And if you play it out, then you might miss cut." And he's like, and then he's talking about like, "Oh, I might want to put the bracket," and we're like. He's like, I might want to kind of manipulate the bracket. And we're like, no, Jason, you can't manipulate the bracket. We're playing different decks tomorrow. And so eventually he did ID. So I ended up 5-0-2 on day one.
Okay. Congratulations. Do you know what seed you were?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, third.
So I got some questions about your list.
Okay.
Okay. So most lists kind of play 4 eggs, but you decided to play 3. Why was that?
Yeah, it's a really bad starter. That was really the biggest thing. Like I didn't want to have lone egg starts, and I know the difference is kind of minuscule, but I never really wanted the 4th one. There were a few times where I had prized. If you prize 1, you're set. Like you can function with 2 for most of the time. Like sure, it makes it harder. Like you have to choose different discard targets for your Ultra Balls and your Computer Surge. And sometimes you want to put all the eggs down so you can get the Executors when you have them instead of having to discard them, like especially early in the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, we felt the deck functioned well with only 3 execute, and it gave us another spot to work with in the list, which was pretty tight, I thought.
Okay. Now you played 3 Jirachi. I know some lists play 1, and some play 2, but you decided to go 3. Why was that?
Well, for one, it was another. It's really funny. Like you would rather start with Jirachi than execute in the deck. Just you don't get dunked. And I played against 4 decks that were playing Hypnotoxic Laser and Burbank, and so I definitely didn't want it. Like it would have been really bad if I'd had more lone egg starts. I probably would have lost a lot of the games I went second. But we kind of decided we didn't want to play Empoleon. We wanted to play the heavy Jirachi line instead. Mm-hmm. It really helps getting out the flare guns when you need them, especially in like the Toad matchup and the Verzian matchup. It saves you a lot. Like if you play one Jirachi and you prize it, I've had so many times, like so many different decks I've played this season, where I prize my one Jirachi, I Ultra Ball, Jirachi's prize, and I lose. That's just the end of the game.
True.
So we kind of decided we wanted to play more than one. We don't want to like risk it being prized. And we wanted to play. We tested 2, and we settled on 3 just because we could get it out whenever we needed it. We could get the supporters we need whenever we need it, and they're never going to get Lysandre'd up. That's just like the point of the deck.
True.
And so it ran really well. We kind of decided we didn't want to play Empoleon because it's going to be Genesect. Anything playing Genesect, like especially Verzian Genesect, of course, can red signal it up, and it. And then we didn't play any switching cards or AZ. I know like Jason was playing AZ. We didn't have any way to get the Empoleon out of the active spot, so they would get a turn of supporters back. Same against the mirror match. And I thought that was just too much of a liability. Even if you went first, you get the Empoleon out with an Archie's, then your opponent with any deck can Lysandre it up, and then they get 2 turns from there as supporters probably. And that was just kind of. We really like the Empoleon. It provides a lot of good draw, but we thought the Jirachis definitely fit the deck better.
Okay. Now, you talked about the Headringer some against Evital in the Evital matchup, but what other matchups did it help against?
Yeah, definitely. It was the main purpose was for Verzian, of course. And against a deck like Executor, the difference between getting 3 energy down and 2 energy down is monumental. It just makes it so much easier. You can start crushing, hammering it off, flare gunning it off, and it's even better if you go second, so they get the energy on the active Verzian, and then you can if they don't get the muscle band down, that's when it gets better, just because you can headringer that. Then they kind of got to decide: do I start attaching to bench stuff? Do I attach to the active again, and then you can flare grunt it, and then maybe they get another Verzian down, they get an energy on it, and then you can headringer that one too, and so. It allowed for a lot of good plays. We even thought about including a megaphone to megaphone off the bands that like Verzian would get down and get the headringers on, but it never fit into the list, and in testing it wasn't great. we had to have to discard, like sometimes you'd have to discard your head ringers as well as their muscle bands, and then you'd put new head ringers down, but then the stuff that had the head ringers before would be able to attack, so.
Okay. Now, you did play the one Herbal Energy. Why was that?
Herbal Energy, in my opinion, was really a Donphan tech, and I think it significantly increases the matchup. So if they hit you, if they only have a basic fighting, they're going to hit you for 40, 40, and 40, so that'd be 120. Mm-hmm. If after some point you can hit them, you can put an herbal on, that's going to heal one of those 40s down to 10, and so instead of having 3 hits to knock you out, it's going to take 4 hits for them to knock you out. And same with just having a strong energy attached, they're going to hit you for 60 and 60. If you use an herbal to heal 30, they're going to hit you for 60, you reduce to 30 and 60, so that's only 90. And so that's going to make a 2-hit, a 3-hit. And that was the big thing. Just gives you one more turn once or twice in the game, and that can be all the difference you need to get rid of all their energies on the board. Also good against baby Yveltals hitting you for 30 or 50. Also good to heal some laser damage that might have accumulated too.
Okay. So after playing regionals, would you make any changes to this eggs list, or you think it's pretty solid?
I definitely think it's really solid. The one N in the deck was a last-minute change. My friend JW Crewall, I don't know, had a revelation over it during the night, and he decided, oh, an N would be really good, and I don't know, I was too tired to argue with him, and I was like, oh, sure, we'll do it. And so we cut a Sycamore for an N, and I don't know, there were probably 5 or 6 times during the day I'm just like, all I have is this N in my hand, and I can't end my opponent right now. They've got a 2-card hand, and I know there's no energies in it. So I'm just gonna wait until I get an Ultra Ball, and I'd rather Ultra Ball for a Juniper or for a Jirachi to get another Juniper instead of playing the N.
Sure.
There was only one time where it came into effect, and that was I started Jirachi against one of my Yveltal opponents in the second game, and they knocked it out really quickly, and so I'm like, oh, this N would be really good. And so I N him down to 4, and that's when I hit the Flare Grunt, and so then I hit him with a Blockade. They hit me with a Quaking Punch, I Flare Grunted, and then they had the DC in hand anyway, so I'm just like... And that was the only time in the entire day that I played the N. Okay. So I would definitely cut that for another Juniper.
Alright. So I guess overnight you had to switch decks, so
yep.
Why did you decide to play the Aromatisse Gardevoir Florges deck?
This is a great story.
Okay.
So Kevin Baxter and I, we were in the same group, went out for dinner, and we knew we were playing the next day. And at some point, we're kind of joking with each other, like, oh, what are you gonna play? What's the good play? And at one point, he just kind of turns to me. He's like, look, whoever wins is gonna play the winner of Jason's game, and we know Jason is probably gonna play Trevin and Excelgor.
Sure.
And no offense to Jason's opponent at all, we just knew, like, Trevin and Excelgor was definitely a very strong deck and expanded. Like, you got the Ninetales and the Silent Lab now, you can shut off Genesect. Or you shut off Virizion, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And it does a lot, like, and it's just such a good deck, and we're like, Jason's a great player, we think he's going to do really well, so we basically decided, or he pitched to me, what if we both play Fairies with Wonder Energy? We play this mirror match, we try, like, Tech for the Mirror or something, we build our own lists, we go and we play top 8, and then the winner will probably play Jason in the top 4. And then with and I'm like, oh, is the Wonder Energy that good? And he's like, yeah. And it was funny, he even had to explain to me what Wonder Energy did. I didn't even know.
Oh, it's so good.
You have the Wonder Energy attached to your whatever your active is, and then when they attack you, the paralysis and poison don't affect your Pokemon. It's not like Grass Energies with the Virizion, where when you move a Wonder Energy to a paralyzed or poison Pokemon, that it gets rid of the status condition. Mm-hmm. It just prevents the effects of attacks when it hits you.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be really good. And so I thought about it for a bit, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't have any better ideas, honestly. Like, and I thought Mega Gardevoir would be pretty good on the field because, like, it's really good against Toad. I thought Trevin and Excelgor was a really good deck, and there might be more people playing it too. And so we kind of just decided on this, and I threw a list together at midnight or so, played two test games with my friend Christopher, and then called it a night and went to bed.
Alright, so going to the top 8, did Kevin show up with Aromatisse, or did he switch over to like Metal or something?
No, we kept joking about this. Like, man, Kevin's just gonna show up with metal tomorrow. But I'm like, nope, we shook on it, and like I went, yeah, we were at dinner, and he pitched this idea to me, and then we kind of drove back to the hotel in separate cars, and I'm thinking about it, and I just went up to him, and I'm like, all right, man, let's shake on it. We'll do metal, or we'll do not metal. we'll shake on it, and so we shook on it, and then I'm like, oh, no, we shook on it, and everybody's like, yeah, Kevin's a good guy, he won't do this. And no, he showed up with fairies, and we played a rousing mirror match in top 8.
All right, so what ended up happening?
Yeah, so I made a couple really good decisions with the deck list and a couple really terrible ones. And among the terrible ones was only playing 2 Mega Gardevoir. And in the first game, I think I discarded a Mega Gardevoir early, and then I prized the second one. And so I like did a deck search after a bit, and I'm like, oh, I prized a Mega Gardevoir. And then I like played it more, and I'm like, yeah, okay, we're scooping this game. Like, I think he had taken maybe 1 or 2 prizes, and I had taken 0, and it's like, this game is over. There's no way.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is hitting for me for 210 damage or so, and I'm doing 120 max with this floor just, like, even if I take prizes, he's probably going to Lissandre up my Gardevoirs and stuff. Kevin's great. He knows what he's doing. So I scooped that game. Game 2, just bad starts. Neither one of us started with the baby Xerneas any of the games. And so we both had to like start and like put the Fairy Garden down and attach our energy somewhere, and then attach one to the active and retreat to the Xerneas and finally get something going. Mm-hmm. I think in the second game, he definitely didn't start Xerneas, but I think, the second game, I had like a floor just start, and then no supporter, and then he goes and he like attaches to his active, and then I go no supporter, and so I have to just lead and get the supporter to start going, and then he I don't think he even Geomancy the next turn, and then I finally got a Geomancy going, and just back and forth with the stupid stuff. Like, Fairies was a great deck, but it drew really bad sometimes.
Yeah.
But the deciding factor in this game, he had to discard all 3 of his Lissandre and a VS Seeker at one point. And I found out he was only playing 3 Lissandre, 3 VS Seeker. And so he only had 2 more outs to playing Lissandre. And it was kind of the thing where he top decks his card for the turn and just sighs, seeing like another Lissandre in his hand that he knows he has a Juniper. He can't do anything about it. Like, he can't waste a turn using lead to get an N or something. He can't just sit back and do nothing. He's got to get something going. You have to, like, it's really a clock. You're just going and, like, you got to get your 7 energy on the board to one-shot their Mega Gardevoir before they do.
Yeah.
Then you got to have the response to their Mega Gardevoir, and if you do that, you're probably set. So he couldn't get Lissandre's going, and so I was able to set up my Mega Gardevoir, and then eventually, once I was ready, I could bring it up. Lissandre, his Mega Gardevoir, hit it. He took out mine, and then I took out his with my second one. And that was game 2. The third game was crazy. I started with a Gardevoir, and I started Gardevoir Spirit Link, Mega Gardevoir in my hand with a couple energies, and I knew obviously the key to winning this game was getting the Mega Gardevoir, and I'm like, I can Juniper away this Mega Gardevoir and just pray that my other one's in the deck. Neither of us were playing Trump card, so we couldn't ever get it, or I was never going to get one back. But I just decided, no, I'm just going to start the turn, attach an energy to my Gardevoir, Spirit Link. Next turn I'm going to Mega Evolve and Juniper, and then finally start doing stuff. But he wasn't able to get the Geomancy. Actually, he whiffed the Fairy Garden, so he was just waiting with the Xerneas on the bench to do something. Mm-hmm. This game kind of went back and forth, kind of the typical, I get all my energies on the board. He gets his down. We swing back and forth for a while. And really the deciding factor in these games were the EXP shares. I played 2 of them, and that was my big tech for the mirror. And he only played 1. So I was able to throw mine on like a Aromatisse and a Florges. And then you gotta play around making sure that your active has only as many basic energy as you do EXP shares on the bench.
Okay.
And so the turning point in this game, he's got 4 prizes. He took a knockout, and so he only had 4 prizes left. And I think I had 4 as well. Maybe I had 2. I had 2, but he was bringing up his Mega Gardevoir for the response against mine. And I'm taking out. This is my turn. I'm taking out the first of his 2 Mega Gardevoirs, and I end him to 4, and then I take the knockout. So he has an EXP share on the board that gives him 6 energy on the board total. He's just got to hit 1 more energy. Well, the turn before, he actually had to Juniper away 2 of his energies.
Okay.
And he had discarded a couple earlier, too. Or maybe I think some of the ones I was knocking out were getting some off the board.
Mm-hmm.
So he had 1 Wonder Energy and 1 Computer Search in the deck. And he Junipers into about a 15-card deck. And I'm just watching him slowly get his cards. And the last one, he picks it up real slow, and I sigh of relief, and he just... And he's like, oh, I had 2 outs, and I'm like, man, I know. Like, it was just crazy. And so then I had the Lysandre in hand to finish the game from there. So I definitely got really lucky, but it was a crazy back and forth mirror match, some really good games.
Yeah. All right. So going to top 4. So we're playing against Jason, or what happened?
No, playing against Jason. Jason's opponent was playing Genesect. Jason was sitting next to me, and we were kind of watching the game, and he was drawing really bad. I think at one point, I just heard Jason's opponent like, "Oh, how many cards do you have in your hand?" And Jason's like, 0. There's no beach in play or anything. Just like, nope, I don't have a hand. And so at that point, I knew. I'm like, oh, dang it! Like that was a nice gambit, and it's not going to pay off. So then I'm playing in top 4 against Genesect. And I'm playing against, his name is Andre, and he's a really cool guy. In the first game, he obliterates me. He plays really smart. He red signals up my Spritzies. I was able to get some Geomancies going, but as soon as I did, he was hitting me with like G boosters on my Florges. He kept my Aromatisse off the board enough so that he was able to like Megalo Cannon and put 20 on the Mega Gardevoir, and then he could G booster, and I couldn't, like, because normally I would want to move the energies off, max potion, get rid of that 20 damage, so that he can't G booster to knock out the Mega Gardevoir, but no dice, and I actually scooped this game pretty quickly, just knowing there was no way that I could do anything. In the second game, it was pretty standard. I started going with a Florges lead. I don't think I even used Geomancy in this game. I just slowly accumulated energy on the board. Okay. And used Bright Garden. It was actually a great attack against Genesect with 2 energies. If you have 5 fairy Pokemon on the board, you're doing 100 damage. But he missed the turn 2 energy drop. And so he didn't get a turn 2 Emerald Slash, of course. And that put him behind quite a bit, especially with the speed of Florges coming at him.
Yeah. And
I was able to clean this game up with Mega Gardevoir. The third game was crazy. I can say that. I started out pretty bad. I think I had I had hoped he would put out the Sky Arrow Bridge on his first turn. I started with a Spritzy, and then I could retreat into my Xerneas and Geomancy on my first turn, which would have been sweet. I wish I'd ever start with it, but never happens. And he gets the obvious, like, Emerald Slash. You got the Sky Arrow on his second turn to retreat, and he's going. But kind of one of the turning points in this game was I was able to bounce his Sky Arrow Bridge several times with my Fairy Gardens. And so he was retreating several times and had to waste an energy doing that. And so I was keeping energy off the board. He played really aggressively and was, like, at times G-boosting my Xerneas, which would keep the energy off my board, but it definitely also kept the energy off his board. And so then the next turn, I think he energy switched over another energy and attached from his hand, and he's able to knock out my Florges. I think I was at 6 prizes left still. I hadn't taken any. He had 2 left. He played a town map, which, like, of course, helped him get the Jirachi out of his prizes, the Colress that he had. But it also helped me, of course, because I could see what was in his hand. I know if I wanted to end him or not. He dead drew a little bit in the middle of the game. I was able to deny prizes for a little while because I knew he, like, desperately needed the prizes to pick out the supporters and stuff in his prizes. But eventually, at the end, I start getting the Mega Gardevoir going, and he ends up with having only enough energy on the board for one Genesect, and he chooses to he chooses to red signal up a Spritzy and take a knockout. Actually, time had been called, and so he takes a knockout. He's got 1 prize left, and I have 2 or 4. So that's his turn 0. On my turn 1, I use my Mega Gardevoir. I think he might have ended me, but I had, in one way or another, I had the energy in hand that I think he didn't think I had, and so I was able to finish off a knockout, take out his Genesect, clears the energy clears board of energy, and he kind of is so defeated at this point. He just looks at me like, "Oh, I lost," and he's like kind of talking under his breath to himself, like, "Oh man, I lost. Like this game, wow." I know he had 2 Enhanced Hammer in the deck, and so he had a couple plays, actually. He could have red signaled up something, such as my Xerneas, with 2 retreat costs. I would have to waste too many energy to take a knockout.
Yeah.
If he'd have to replace my Fairy Garden. That was one play. He also played 2 Enhanced Hammers, so he could have Enhanced Hammered off 2 of my Wonder Energies, and then I wouldn't have enough energy to attack. However, he did have a benched. He had a bench Virizion with 100 damage that I'd hit with the floor just early in the game, and so that I could have also gotten a Lysandre no matter what he did.
Yeah.
But he ended me to 2 and himself to 1. And I knew at this point there wasn't really anything he could have done. Sort of like a bicycle and then double Enhanced Hammer or something. Actually, the turn before, I had used the Battle Compressor to thin my deck, get any of the useless cards out. And so it didn't even matter what I drew off the end, because then he couldn't do anything, and looks at his hand, looks down in defeat, and kind of just shakes my hand, and that was the end of that. It was a really good game, a really good series. My opponent he's a pretty new player, and he did really great. He had a great tournament, and he was really defeated with himself and held himself to a really high standard. Really defeated once he lost, but it was a great series.
Okay. So going to the finals, are you nervous? Are you excited?
Honestly, at this point, I was just super excited. Winning the 2 buys for nationals was definitely the highest goal for me, I thought, and that's why I was really excited. And I was going into the finals, going to be on stream, and just really excited. Like, I had never made finals at a regionals before, and I knew. And the other big thing was, I was the only American left, even in the top 4. There were 3 Canadians in the top 4, and then against Calvin in the finals, another Canadian. So it was the America versus Canada battle, and so I was really excited. I wanted to take it home for America. So we're going into this. Calvin is playing the craziest deck I've ever imagined in my life. And it is Seismitoad, Lugia, Mana, Jinx, Keldeo, with the same that Curtis Lyon was playing back in Michigan States. Like the Super Scoop Ups, and the roller skates, and the acrobikes, and the random receivers. Wasn't as crazy as Curtis's. Curtis's played just Sycamore and the 1 trump card. Yeah. This played 1 N, 1 Lysandre in the trump card, as well as the Sycamores. So I would say the random receivers were not as strong, but he definitely had more options.
Yeah.
The first game I start with a Florges and I think a bad hand, but he goes first, attaches to the Lugia, and passes. And I'm just like, well? So I attach the turn, I think I lead. On the next turn, he attaches and passes. I Juniper, I attach. I have enough Pokemon in play that I can do 100 with Bright Garden. And so I'm like, all right, if he doesn't hit something this turn, then I'll just win. This would be huge. And of course, he top 6 the Sycamore from there. But I was really able to run away with this game. I think this was another one of those games where I never used Geomancy.
Yeah.
I just, slowly built up the energy, used Bright Garden with the Florges, and I took a knockout on that Lugia that way. And at one point, I even Lysandre'd the Mana, went out of my way to do that. I'm like, I didn't have anything else I could really do for the turn. I didn't get any Gardevoir Spirit Links down, and so I would have had to waste my turn Mega Evolving. And I'm like, I'll do that at some point, because that's just how I'm going to close up this game. But this Mana is really annoying me.
Yeah.
Every time he puts me to sleep, I can't do anything about it. And then if I flip Tails, like, I basically just have to sacrifice that attacker. And so I took that out, and then I ended my turn once to Mega Evolve, and then I just swept from there with a Mega Gardevoir once I had enough energy on the board.
Okay.
The second game was my only Xerneas start of the entire tournament. And so I got the turn 1 Geomancy. This might have even been the game that I got the Gardevoir and the Spirit Link out. And I had a Spritzy, like everything was good. On his turn, he put me to sleep with a laser, and then I woke up, and once I flipped to wake up, you just see him just roll back and sob. He just knows, like, man. And I've got all this energy on the board. I'm able to bounce his Verbanks really well with the Fairy Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big things in this game, I don't know if it was prized or if he just never had a good time to play it, but he never used the trump card. And so that was really huge for me, because I knew he only played 3 Hypnotoxic Lasers. I knew he played 2 Verbanks. And so once those all hit the discard pile, I felt pretty good. I knew the only way he'd do anything to me was with mana. He would only have like a 25% chance to use that to keep me asleep.
Yeah.
I was able to play this. He used the Random Receiver a bunch of times, and with such a low supporter count in his deck, I was able to see all the cards that he was revealing with Random Receiver, and I stopped him several times from shuffling it back in so I could look through those, get a good idea of the count. He had a couple Super Scoop-Ups in there, see how many like Junipers, Ends, Lissandras he played.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of knowledge I was able to gather among the 2 games, and it really helped me. This game was a lot closer than the first game, but eventually I had 9 or 10 energy on the board for a big attack at one point, and I don't think that was the correct play, because that let me put the XP shares back into play. That let me get max potions. The big part was I also could VS Seeker for Lissandras, which meant he just couldn't stall me out as much in the end game. And I got out the Mega Gardevoir, and I kind of swept in 3 or 4 turns from there. And yeah, that game was it.
All right. Well, congratulations on winning, sir. It's very nice.
Thanks, man.
All right. Now, I know you talked a lot about your list during the while you were explaining your matches, but I guess the one card you didn't really explain was a 1AZ. How clutch was that card?
Terrible. There were several times, especially in the finals, where I thought about using it. Mm-hmm. But then the thing is like, oh, I have to discard the Gardevoir Spirit Link off my Mega Gardevoir, and then I can put it back in my hand, and like I can Mega Evolve the one that I put onto the bench to end my turn.
True.
It was something that I was kind of teching like for other Seismitoad decks, but then it ended up being a lot worse than I expected. We actually used Kevin Baxter's list from Florida Regionals as the starting point for this list, and he had 2 in his, and so I kind of just threw 2 in there, and Christopher's like, oh, I don't know if I'd use 2, I'd probably just do 1, and like maybe you could use Battle Compress or something to get it out, like you throw it in the discard, you can use BSTKs for it. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. Those kind of ended up being the worst 2 cards in the deck. I don't know. I never really played against a lot of stuff where I would have wanted it. I couldn't really waste the turn using an AZ. I had to use Lissandra to take out somebody's attacker. Mm-hmm. Had to use Sycamore to get more of my energies, the Aromatisse I need, the XP shares, which were huge. I had to use N to disrupt them or something. Like this, a lot of the times I was playing from behind, basically, and all the games except for my mirror matches against Kevin, and so I was able to stack up energies, add them down to low numbers, and then sweep from there.
Okay.
And so I couldn't use AZ very much.
All right. Now, you did talk about the one Battle Compressor. Was that solely just for the AZ, or what else was it used for?
I really like Battle Compressor as a card, especially in a deck like this with 4 VS Seeker. Mm-hmm. And so that just gives you another out to help with dead draws. It helped a lot against Kevin, actually. I could discard all my Fairy Gardens, because I would never need them. Neither of us would ever pump it. Yeah. I used it to get rid of useless cards like Ultra Balls and Gardevoir Spirit Links against Toad. For the most part, I wouldn't play it again.
Okay. Alright. So I know that in day 2 you're allowed to play Level Ball, but you decided not to? Mm-hmm. Why was that?
We thought about Level Ball, and I know Kevin had it in his Florida list. But I mean, it only helps 2 cards in the deck, the Spritzy and the Aromatisse. Mm-hmm. And I never really had a lot of problems getting them out with 3-3. With a 3-3 line, 3 Aromatisse and 3 Spritzy. And the list was tight too. We had a lot of trouble fitting everything in. I know Kevin's from Florida didn't play any Mega Gardevoir, and so we had to somehow make room for 3 Mega Gardevoir, 3 regular Gardevoir, and 3 Spirit Link. Sure. And so that was just one of the quick cuts.
Okay. So after playing this list, would you make what changes would you make to it?
Yeah, actually, I've thought about this, and the battle compressor would be the first cut, and I would add another baby Xerneas. I don't know the numbers or anything, like how much it would help you with starting with it, but just any account or any more that I can increase my chances to start with it is great, because obviously that's exactly what you need. And if you don't start with it, you're definitely not going to use Geomancy until the second turn. Sometimes not even until the third turn.
True.
And then I'd probably cut a Fairy Garden. Even with 3, you can win the Stadium War as long as you don't drop it first. Against stuff like Genesect, usually playing 3 Sky Arrows. Toad deck's playing 2 to 3 Verbanks. So I would drop one of and there were several games, like against Genesect, where where I had a Juniper away and Mega Gardevoir or something, and then I only played with 1 for the rest of the game. That actually almost cost me the game in the series against Genesect.
Mm-hmm.
Where at the end of the game he had the 1 Genesect left with 2, and he had 2 prizes. And his out to win was actually if he could red signal the Gardevoir that I had on the bench that I couldn't Mega Evolve because I discarded the other Mega Gardevoir, and use the Shadow Triad to get back the G booster.
Yeah.
And if he did that both if he could do that in the same turn, then he would just win. Of course, he'd G booster that and win. Otherwise, I would keep it off the board. And I felt really stupid as soon as I saw that play. I'm like, why did I drop this Gardevoir? I knew I didn't have another Mega. It's worthless on the board. The Gardevoir isn't gonna do any damage for me, and it's just a liability. And so I would definitely put another Mega Gardevoir, just to help get out the second one in games that you discarded, or even the third. Sometimes, like in the mirror, could be really helpful.
Okay. So, are you gonna need any more regionals coming up?
I'm not sure. I'm undecided yet as to whether or not I'm going to Wisconsin. I definitely want to stay in the top 32 instead of the top 16. I live so close to Indianapolis that the stipend is probably more worthwhile if I get $1,000 than the full travel award.
True.
Because we're not flying, we just drive. But I do kind of want to, now that I have the shot, I want to shoot for the top 16 in North America. And I have the buys, so maybe I could get Nationals points as well.
Okay.
But I don't know. I really like to go to Wisconsin and test for Nationals, get some experience in with the new format, because I haven't been testing it all for that yet. So it's up in the air. I'll decide in the next couple days. So hopefully I'll be there.
Okay. So speaking of championship points, how many are you at right now?
I have 497.
497. And I guess, what do you think the cutoff is for top 16 North America?
My estimate has been between 600 and 650. I know because Andrew Estrada's he's going to get 300 more points, which will put him at like 620, 630. And the rest of the top 4 from Worlds last year, those are all European players, so that won't matter. But there are senior age-ups. Grant Manley, Alex Croxton, Trent Orndorff, they all have points that they've gotten this year, and then they're also going to get 300 points from Worlds last year.
Sure.
So those guys, and then all of top 8 from U.S. Nationals gets 300 points. First gets 500, though. So if any of those players also have 300 points already going in because they had invites, they're going to be up to 600 points. First place in Canada gets 500 points. Second place gets 300 points. So if those players had invites, then they're also going to be at 600 points or more. And then there's like Keanu Meany and Chase Maloney, who each have 600 points or more. Chase even has 100 more from Worlds this past year. And so you can quickly go through and count and be like, oh, as long as 6 of the 8 players from Nats have invites, then that's, I don't know, about 10 or 12 players you can guarantee that'll have 600 points or more.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely going to be around 600, probably closer to 650. And so I don't think there's going to be many players who can get to that number without having a strong showing at Nationals. And so Nationals is going to be even more of a monumental event for the season.
Very true. All right. Well, do you want to give any shout-outs to anybody?
Yeah. Shout out to Team Polyswag, all my boys from MSU. Shout out to Kevin Baxter. I know the plan for day 2 didn't go exactly as planned, but I think Mega Gardevoir was definitely a strong deck.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he suggested it. And I'm obviously glad he stuck to his word. I'm sure he would. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Team Couch Boys. And shout out to my opponents. Everybody this week, everybody was great. Nobody was rude. Everybody loved Pokemon, and it was a great game. Great weekend. Really fun.
All right. Well, congratulations on winning once again, and good luck at Nationals.
Thanks, man. You too. I'll see you there.
Alrighty, bye.
See ya.